Thank you very much for joining us. Well, you know, there's so much going on in the news regarding law enforcement and public safety issues. We thought this was a good time to check in with former Boston Police Commissioner Ed Davis, CEO of the Edward Davis Company, a business consulting and security services firm, and a WBZ security analyst. Ed, it's good to see you.
Good to see you too, my friend.
It's been about a year since we talked. But we're pretty much talking about the same issues here. The Associated Press, on the morning of our taping, is reporting that the ICE officer who shot a Colombian man here legally, according to his lawyer, and not the suspect they were searching for up in Maine the other day, is an Army veteran who struggled with serious mental health issues since early childhood. According to his relatives, never should have been given a badge and gun to patrol American streets. This is the 10th person killed by ICE officers since the Trump crackdown began. What do you make of what's going on with this case and more generally with ICE?
Well, it's a real tragedy, and there's clearly a problem with the hiring practices of ICE. The old adage in police hiring is person's past history is indicative of their future conduct. Yes. So when you come across troubling information like that, the answer is no. They just can't be police officers. You're giving them a gun, giving them a badge, and all the authority of the government in the body of one person. So it's extremely troubling. It appears that they are not getting the training that they need, and they certainly don't have the experience that they need to be conducting traffic stops. That's a unique responsibility that people who work behind a desk or are in a federal agency don't get a lot of experience on. The police departments do it every day, so they get to know how to do it.
Here's a quote from Congressman Bill Keating, who sits on, I believe, the Homeland Security Committee, or whatever it's called these days, reacting to the Maine incident. He says, quote, "We're well past the stage of saying, well, they don't know how to do their jobs. This is the way, evidently, they want to do the job," end quote. Do you agree with that?
I agree that the people who started this process are ignorant of what police have learned over the last 100 years. I bring your attention back to 1985, something called the Miami River Beach murder case.
Yeah.
That was 100 police officers who were indicted or fired from the Miami Police Department after a big push to double the size of the department without hiring people appropriately. So they hired a bunch of really marginal people, and when they got in and they realized what kind of power they had, they used it against the community. That should have been a lesson to the federal authorities who wanted to put this in place. And the worst thing you can do is put in quotas, arrest quotas. Arrest quotas don't work. Motor vehicle enforcement quotas don't work. It's just really ill-advised.
One last thing before we take a break and move on to other topics here. We were talking about this over a year ago, last time you were here, and you spoke well of Tom Homan, who's now the top ICE official. He formerly was based here in Boston. He reacted to a question about why ICE agents allegedly responsible for fatal shootings in Maine and in Texas were not wearing body cameras, by basically blaming the Democrats in Congress for not giving ICE enough funds, as if the $10 billion they had before the recent dust-up wasn't enough. Do you still feel the same way about Homans?
No, I don't. I mean, the question I was asked was whether or not he was a competent official, police official. Right. And I've heard that he has been.
Okay.
However, that's a stupid statement from a public official, that it's a money thing in an agency that's got all that kind of money. And it's ignorant of that man to criticize Michael Cox and Mayor Wu the way he did, saying things like, "I'm coming for you." That is dictatorial. It's not indicative of a democratic society, and it's really troubling. So I think he's way off base.
If you ran the world, what would you be doing to fix this terrible situation?
Well, I think the first response, which is to stop motor vehicle stops, was intelligent and responsible. But then the president steps in and says, "Not on my watch." So you've got somebody who doesn't care about the community response or the loss of life. It just seems as though his policy is the most important thing in his mind, and damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. And that's no way to run a government.
You've spoken highly of the work that Commissioner Michael Cox, current commissioner, and Mayor Wu are doing to cut back on gun violence. The stats are certainly better than they once were. But July 4th weekend was a bloody one in the city. 2 people killed, 11 wounded. Elected officials on the city council calling for more resources to support the grassroots work that's done to reduce violence. Leaders of the police union say they've got a staffing crisis. They're understaffed. Mayor Wu talks a lot about root causes. Some of her critics want a summit meeting. They don't think she knows what she's doing. Who's right, Ed?
Well, I'm out of the business, but from a distance, I think that the police union always wants more officers. There's no question. One statistic that was reported to me by Rapid SOS, which is a company that watches the 911 systems across the country, is the night of July 4th, the 911 demand went up multiple of 2.6%. So, not percent, it multiplied 2.6 times. It was the busiest 911 demand in history that night. So this is not unique to Boston. It's a problem across the country. And I think that every year, I mean, I can remember being with Mayor Menino and having to leave the events that he had on 4th of July because of the absolute certainty that we were going to have homicides. They just, the shootings and the homicides go off the charts that night.
Okay.
So the challenge is not to try to place blame or to pick. I think who's right is more strict enforcement and the combination of programs. I remember Paul Evans telling me many years ago, if we have jobs for these young kids, there'll be less shootings. And I totally agree with that. Mm-hmm. So my point is that I think we have to start looking at other issues that are happening in the nation, as opposed to singling out one night in one city devoid of any comparison or understanding of the bigger picture.
So issues, what do you mean by other issues in the nation? The economy, the changes in policing, or, I mean, we're still doing community policing here, right?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
And it's important to engage the community in things.
Okay.
And it's important to have programs to try to reduce the level of violence. But the police have had their hands tied over the last several years. And you know, what happened to George Floyd is horrible. It was a terrible disaster and a tragedy. But the backlash has definitely changed the way policing is delivered. And you've got to wonder if some of that is playing a role here. If the releasing of people from prisons for minor offenses is having an effect on the overall crime picture.
Interesting.
Yeah, those are all things that need a stronger debate. Listen,
I want to use our final seconds here to get a brief answer on this issue of keeping the bars open now. They want to push it back to 3 a.m. It was a big hit during the World Cup. The Patrolmen's Association is beside themselves. They say they're 100% against that. Again, who's right here?
Yeah. Well, I agree that it's going to cause trouble. I mean, as my grandmother said, nothing good happens after midnight. And I think that played out through my whole career.
Right.
Now, New York has a later closing time, and I've been down there, and it seems to be handled pretty well, but it's been like that for decades. I think it's going to cause a problem for the city, and I think twice about it before I allowed that, or even advise that it would be a good idea. Not that I can allow it.
Yeah. Get your partying done by 2 and
exactly.
Call it a night.
And wrap it up.
Yeah. All right. Ed, great to see you.
Great to see you too. Thank you, John.
Come back again soon.
My pleasure. Always good.
That's Ed Davis of the Edward Davis Company and former Boston Police Commissioner. I'm Jon Keller. Thanks very much for joining us.